I have been a casual player of wargaming products for a while. I would say probably about a decade. World of Warships, World of Tanks, and World of Warplanes. And I've enjoyed those games to some degree. I would not say that they have ever ranked that highly on my list of all time favorites. They're cool. I enjoy them. They're free to play. And I've put a little bit of money into them over the years. I would say very, very little. Probably under $50 over the course of a decade. But once in a while, I have put $10 in or something like that for premium. Anyway, um, definitely those games are on the periphery of my attention. I barely care about them. As a matter of fact, I've sort of ridden the fence on whether I wanted to play them at all because there's so many other games that I like more and I care about more. So, that being said, I spent $10 on World of Warships back in January, I would say. And then I kind of didn't think too much about it after that until I got a call from my bank a couple weeks ago saying that there was some suspicious activity happening. And wouldn't you know, what it was a bunch of transactions all going to wargaming. Thought that's weird. Very weird indeed, because that particular week I wasn't even playing those games. I did have them installed on my computer, and Wargaming did have my credit card on file from when I spent $10 with them a few months back, but I hadn't been playing the game, certainly had not done any microtransactions, and I thought it was really weird that if it was a credit card compromise situation, somebody stole my credit card information and then they proceeded to spend money with wargaming. So how does that happen? Because if somebody just stole the credit card information, they would have spent it any number of places, but it wouldn't have been at wargaming, unless it was somebody at wargaming or a wargaming player who hacked into wargaming servers somehow and got credit cards on file information and then proceeded to use that for stuff they wanted in game. It had to be somebody, though, that was associated or connected to wargaming.com products or the company or their services or their games. And that's really unsettling, because it isn't just a matter of me losing control of my payment information. Somehow, Wargaming lost control of payment information that they had on file and then proceeded to, essentially steal money from me. I don't know how. I don't know whether it was a rogue player or someone who did something they shouldn't have done within the company. I have no idea. And I really don't care, because for me, all it was I just told my bank, no, I did not. I did not do these transactions, and they canceled the transactions and sent me a new card, and life went on, and my life is totally fine. But then I discovered today that Wargaming suspended my account because of chargeback issues. So that's interesting. Interesting that my account never even received any special bonuses Like, it's not like I spent money to buy all this stuff for myself. I don't even know what the charges were for. I didn't do it. But somehow, because my card was on file and the transactions were disputed, their automatic suspension system just went ahead and banned my account. So what did I do? I uninstalled the Wargaming games, and that frees up 100 gigabytes of space on my hard drive. And on my long list of games that I like to play, it's one less game that I need to worry about, which actually frees up my time and my mind for other things. You believe it or not, I don't need to play any one particular game. You take one game off the market for me, that really is not a problem because it's super easy for me to go play another game. You know, like I've ridden the fence for quite a while and thought, you know, maybe I should just quit wargaming games entirely and give War Thunder a try instead, because in many ways it's a better game. You know, or maybe, you know, any number of combat simulation games that aren't paid a, you know, microtransaction, right? So where am I going with this? Well, all I'm saying is I think that game developers, and probably by a larger extent all companies, need to remember that customers matter. And sometimes companies get big, game developers get big, and then they just start to think that they can do whatever they want and act with impunity. And that's not really true. Because if you treat customers poorly and you think that they're just going to deal with it and always come back, that's not necessarily the case. Like this whole thing with wargaming, it's not really a big deal because I really don't need to play the game. Like, it almost just lifts that little bit of a burden off of my chest. I don't have to play the game anymore. I can't play the game. So you know what? Now I can go do something else I want to do. And I think companies forget their place. You know, they want to go out there and they want to treat their customers like subjects. Well, you're going to lose customers that way. And game developers should not see themselves as these gods that offer some sort of an amazing product to their subjects and just expect that they can do shady things and, you know, just all in all undermine their brand while they continue to rake in the cash. You know, there is a point where you can push people away, and when they leave, they don't come back. Like do I even want to play wargaming games now? Like I really am not entirely certain I do. You know, I made a ticket. And I wrote, you know, what happened and told them to look into it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. I mean, I already uninstalled the game. So maybe they'll respond to the ticket and say, "Oh, well, you know, we made a mistake and here's your account back." And that's fine if they do that. But if they do that, you know, am I going to want to go back to that website and put my credit card information in there again so that maybe it can happen a second time? I don't think so, because I can tell you over the last decade, out of all of the websites I've put my credit card information into, I've never had this happen except for there. So why would I go back there and then risk that happens again? I'm not saying that the company, you know, can't be trusted at all. Maybe it's just a fluke deal. I don't know. But, you know, now I'm of the mind, if I was going to put money into that, you know, into that game again, or something, I'd want to use like a prepaid card or a PayPal thing or something so that I, know that it's not gonna drain my account when I'm not looking or something. But if I have to have that sense of concern and that lack of certainty that I can trust the company, then at that point I don't need to have a relationship with that company anymore. So all in all, I think, maybe the lesson for the consumer is just if you aren't treated well, remember that you don't have to be there. Like you can always give your business to someone else. And nobody is indispensable. Everybody can be replaced. And companies need to remember that. People need to remember that. Like we all need to remember that, we can be taken down a peg. And if you treat people bad enough at some point, there are consequences to that. And maybe you lose one person and you say, it's no big deal. It's fine. Like, who needs just one person? But if you do that times enough players, enough people, at some point it does start to add up. You start to have attrition. People start to spread the word. And then you start to lose credibility. And when you do that, there's always going to be somebody else, somebody with more integrity, with a better reputation, that's going to step into that void. And that's the consequence. It's not really that, it's not really that I need somebody else to justify my position. It's just I'm not there anymore. And then what do I do when I have a little bit of extra time and maybe that one game I was playing off and on is no longer on my list of games to play? Well, somebody else gets my time. Somebody else gets that money next time I feel like dropping $10 on a microtransaction, right? So there's that. Just thought it was a little bit interesting, and I think it's really true regardless of the genre. It's like take New World. New World's made by Amazon. MMO comes out, and the developers. It just seems like as I follow this game, the developers do not care about their player base. They just do not care. It's like they make this game, which is in many ways an amazing game, and yet they're always there to ignore their player base and basically say, we know better than our customers. Like, whatever it is you want to see in the game, we're going to do our own thing because we don't really care what you want. Like that's kind of the message that Amazon has extended with the entire release of New World. And I think I'm not super familiar with it other than what I've heard, but it seems like that's basically what happened with World of Warcraft and Blizzard. Like players had certain things that they wanted to see in the game, and the developers knew this, but they just didn't care. They want to do their own thing. They think it's their game. People are addicted to World of Warcraft. They're never going to leave, And then what happened? Well, we saw other games like Final Fantasy XIV, for example, which became very popular in the last couple of years. And these other games became more center stage because the developers just didn't really want to provide good customer service to their players. They believed that their players were kind of like a secondary tool used for their own corporate success. They weren't there to serve their customers. They were there to define their customers' interests. Like here's what we want our customers to want. Let's just force it down their throat, and then they'll learn to love it. Even if they don't love it, they'll learn to love it. Like, isn't that a toxic relationship? Like that's like a toxic relationship in a nutshell right there. Like don't try to earn love. Just try to make sure that you're A love interest doesn't have any other options and doesn't have anywhere else to go, and then you can just treat them like crap, and of course they'll still be there, because after all, where would they go, right? It's like these you ever hear about people that they do a kind of arranged marriage or something, and like this young woman gets into a marriage and never actually has been outside of her home, and she's been isolated for her whole life, and then she gets into this arranged marriage and doesn't actually know what the world is like. So there's no point of context there to say, oh well, this kind of sucks, this isn't good, because you know what, she doesn't even know that there's any alternatives to this. So if you don't know that there's anything better out there, then why would you go look for it, right? And that's kind of what happens. It happens with companies' relationship to their customers. It happens in romantic relationships. It happens in workplaces, um, and quite often, we have we have companies. They think, oh well, we're big. We have leverage, and they forget that that goes both ways. Like, yes, an employee is disposable, because if you lose an employee, you can always replace an employee. But it's also just as important for companies to realize they're disposable too, because the employee can also find another job. That's true. And, you know, if there's anything for us to realize as individuals, it's that we do have power, and you don't really need to be beholden to anyone. And if things just don't work out, keep your options open. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to be the slave to anything, and you certainly don't have to worry about it. If somebody treats you bad, you can always head out. You can always call it a day, and I think that's important. It's like this thing I'm talking about with wargaming. It's just a good example, because the truth is, it's not affecting me very much, because I don't really need this in my life, right? But what if I did? Like, what if that was a big deal to me? Like if I was really hardcore into that game and I felt like that was like the only game I cared about and stuff, then I'd be really indignant, and I'd be really frustrated, and I'd be all up in arms, and I'd be disappointed, because now my favorite game is not available to me, right? And then, that company would be holding all the cards, right? And then I'd be thinking, oh, well, I don't know. Like, I guess I got to make it right. I didn't spend money, but maybe I just have to like pay it all anyway, just so I can get my account active again. Like, like I could see that being a thing, right? Like if I was really hardcore into it, then I don't know. Maybe I'd say, oh, well, I don't know. I didn't spend that $200. Somebody, connived out of my bank account. I'll just pay it back anyway, so my account can be active again. And we see this kind of thing though, where people in abusive relationships will just do whatever it takes to kind of keep things going, because you know, God forbid you lose the one thing that you had going for you, right? But if you have other things, if you have a lot of different channels, and you kind of have diversified in your life, in your relationships, then you cast your bread upon the waters, and not the and you invest in 8 or 9 different things, and some of them work out and some of them don't, and it's okay. It's okay if some of them don't. You just you move on, and you invest in the things that are working out well for you, and that's all there is to it. It's pretty simple that way. Um, but you can't be super focused on just one thing. I think that's the message there, because at the end of the day, you can't control what happens. External factors will interfere with your life to some degree. You're going to have situations where something unexpected happens, and then something goes south, and you just have to diversify on the front side, so that when something does go south, it's not a big deal to you. And when I also find, when you have leverage and you're holding all the cards, people are more likely to work with you, because they know it. They know you don't need them. So they kind of want to work with you a little bit, you know, and there's that. And something to think about. When people know you're desperate, then they also know that they can treat you however they want. But when they know you don't really need them, then, you know, sometimes people work with you a lot more than you think that they would too. And yeah, so put yourself in a good position. Learn to hold all the cards and diversify your position, and realize that leverage goes both ways. Not to rage against a company that is, you know, not doing the right thing. Maybe just to say, there's a lot of companies out there that do take care of their customers and their players. So if you have a bad experience, just maybe shift your attention to something that gives you a better experience and move on. Maybe I'll give War Thunder a try. After all, from what I hear, unlike World of Warplanes, if you go play War Thunder, you actually can extend the landing gear on your aircraft. In World of Warplanes, if you try to land an airplane, you'll just crash because that's not a thing in that game. But yeah, so there's that. Well, anyway, it's enough talking about that. But it was a little bit interesting, and that was kind of on my mind this evening because that's just what happened in the last little while. So got me thinking. Anyway, till next time, appreciate you watching, and I hope you have a wonderful